All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about wire armature very quickly. Those of you that have wire that you got from the studio or that you bought or you have some lying around the house, the thinner wire, the better for what we were doing since we're working really small. It'll be easier to manipulate. The clay is so soft that if you have really thick wire, the force it takes to bend it or move it around, if you have clay on top of it, you might end up damaging what you've sculpted or getting rid of some of the detail. So it's helpful to have a pair of needle nose pliers or any type of pliers, and this will help cut the wire. If you look in all pliers, inside the circle here by where they're connected by that joint, there are little blades here, 2 blades that will allow you to cut the wire. So you can get a piece of wire and you just stick it all the way back here. See what you can see. And then squeeze. And if it's not coming loose, you can give it a little twist and it'll cut really nicely. If you have the thin wire from the studio or some of the stuff that if you got it online, you can just use scissors. It really just depends. This thicker wire, I grabbed some really thick wire. This is a little bit too thick, but I have to use pliers. I wouldn't be able to use scissors for that. So the wire comes in handy because it gives strength to whatever you're creating. It acts as a skeleton. It also helps to join things together. So if you have joints that are going to be moving constantly and you want to be able to stabilize that joint and not weaken it over time with lots of movement, is that you can use bits of wire to kind of pierce things together. It's really a form of connection. And so you also could use it if you had a very complex form that gravity would have it be drooping, like certain types of a figure, or let's say like a flagpole, something that's really high. You could use wire and you could just bend the form into an armature shape and then cover it in clay, bits of clay like this. And then you could sculpt directly on top of your piece. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you use thicker wire like this, if I spent time now sculpting this guy, it's very rudimentary now, but if you were making a person, I'd like to look a little better than this. But you can see this basic form, which I would then go and add, add a head, add features, start to give his body some form. What I can do, the nice thing, is it gives him structure. It also allows him to stand in some unusual positions so I can photograph. But if I were to move him bit by bit, I end up, because the wire's so thick, I need so much force, I end up ruining him and I have to adjust him every single time. Not a big deal with how rudimentary he is right now, but if you spend a lot of effort sculpting something, let's say you're doing a hand or whatever, it'll be really frustrating trying to move it. So what I suggest to do is you can use the wire if you're using thicker wire or whatever. I also undid a paper clip, a staple. Very, very thin, small staple here. That will work really, really well. It's thin and it will just add a little bit of strength to your clay. And it's very, very easy to use. So let's say that I have this torso here. You can see this torso and I want to add an arm, and that arm's going to be moving around. So of course I could just take the arm. Let's see, where is the arm that I made? Here we go. So let's say I have this arm here and I want to attach the arm. I could just try and stick the arm on like this, but every time I'm moving it, maybe I want a little bit more strength. So what I can do is take a little bit of wire. So this is that thicker wire. A thinner wire is going to work a little better. Where are my pliers? All right. And I can pierce into the first part here and then pierce into my arm. So now I've got a much stronger connection. Very, very strong. And I don't have to worry about moving this out. So I could, put it at some extreme angles, touch it up a little bit. And it's very, very strong because I've got that extra joint in there. I can move him around without worrying about that falling off. So using these just for joints is going to be your best bet, especially with a thicker bit of clay, since we are working really small. Ooh, there's a hair in this, it's gross. All right, same thing with like a hand. I made a hand, then I must have just destroyed it. Of course I did that. Okay, so let's say that you wanted to add a little hand onto your arm, and that joint or that juncture at the wrist you're a little bit concerned about. So that's where you could then add another little piece of clay. I'm going to use, or a wire, I'm going to use the paper clip, which, dude, where is the paper clip? Oh my God. All right, well, I don't know where the paper clip just went, but here we go. Oh, I already have the paper clip on here. Okay, so I've got a little paper clip stuck in there. Then I can thread this on to my hand, or my wrist. Smooth it out. So now that hand is on there pretty strong, and I can also move this around easily without having to worry about it falling off. Right? All right, so using clay or using wire armatures. The other thing that can be helpful is, let's say that you want to stick something in the ground and move, I don't know, like whatever you stick into the ground, you can thread coils on top of the wire, or you can just smush it all on. You could also attach things to the side of a set. Let's say if you're using like a cardboard set backdrop, kind of similar to I had a backdrop in my example, you can use this as a good way of attaching things in unusual directions that would be dealing with gravity, or right, like upside down, and I don't have to worry about the strength of it. Whereas like something like this, that might want to droop if I added anything to this, but if I have that wire, it's going to help hold it up. It'll keep things really quick. Quick way of working. All right, that's wire armature.